I always like to start this whole idea of evolution. Just go ahead and define evolution. Can y'all remember what the biological definition of evolution was?
It's a change in species.
Almost. It is a change. So it is a change. Let's do black. It is a change of what? It is over time. So change over time. It's a physics equation now. Wait a second. No, it is a change over time, but what are we changing? We can't change the species, because remember, no, a species will eventually change. Are we changing just one, like, can us as a human, you as a person, like you, just you, can you evolve? No. So what actually evolves? It's a little bigger than the species. So the environment causes this change moment a lot of times because of what's called adaptation. But if you have a bunch of the same, you have a big group of the same species all living together in the same area, we call that a what? Population, right? Yeah. So a change in the population, and it's not just the change of the population, it's the change in the population's genes. Or genetics, you can't see that now. Over time. So, no, it's not monkeys becoming men. It's the change in the genetics of apes. If we want to let's just dive right into this one. It's a change in the genetics of a primate to where it starts adapting itself to starting to use things like tools, starting to lose its hair because it doesn't need it anymore because it's not cold. Starting to develop, the genes of it are starting to develop a better grasp of neuron development. The starting development of, sorry, that picture kind of creeps me out a little bit. So most time you think, oh, this is what evolution is, right? Well, that's not evolution. This is what evolution is, okay? So Charles Darwin, and I'm sure you've probably heard this story like several times, but he was commissioned by the Royal Navy to go and essentially look at the diversity of the world, essentially. And he ended up on the Galapagos Islands. And the Galapagos Islands actually do exist right now. They are actually being fought right now to maintain this genetic diversity. Because tourists have started to come over so much, it's starting to become a problem. And a lot of these species are actually starting to die off because of human impact. What he noticed was that he would go to these different islands. Okay, they would hop from island to island to island. And he would notice some differences. But he noticed more than differences, he noticed some similarities. Beaks. Yeah, the beaks. So these are what's called Darwin's finches. They had these finches in England. Okay? But they didn't look like this. And so if you can notice, things like this. Well, notice that this guy's beak, and I know it's small up there, it's much larger than this guy's beak. And that guy's much smaller than that guy, right? The coloration is different. This guy has a very long, almost tweezer-looking beak. So this guy has a kind of a wrench-looking beak. This one actually has even figured out how to use a tool to get into the tree. So what he found was that each of these finches were very, very similar, but they had some adaptations that had developed them towards a different development. Okay? And that's where he started having, he came back from his voyage on the HMS Beagle and started thinking about these things. What is that?
Did you say the Beagle?
HMS Beagle, yeah. That's what the name of the ship was. Like Snoopy. So there's basically 5 different evidence of evolution. We call these the mechanisms of evolution. And so the reason why we did on what I was saying in the chapters are chapters 21, because 21 covers most of these, and then 24.1 looks at how the genome relates as well, which is the last slide here. So these are the 5 fossil records of biogeography, the anatomy, embryology, and biochemistry. Each of these are kind of support the idea of evolution. Now, stop for a second and think about this. We've got a couple science words that we use, and they use them interchangeably, and I probably just, nope. These 2 words, theory and law. And in science, or in common terms, theory and law are used interchangeably, right? They're like, oh, I have a theory that it's going to rain tomorrow because there's clouds. That's a hypothesis. I had that the law of man says that we will develop continually. That's a theory. Okay. A theory is something that's been tested time and time and time again and been proven to be correct. Whereas a law is a natural phenomenon or a natural principle that is seen. So the law of gravitation, okay, it's a natural principle. It's something that it doesn't have to be proven time and time and time again because it's something that is a phenomenon, something that naturally occurs. Whereas a theory of evolution is, yes, it is a theory. It could one day be proven to be inaccurate, but it's been proven, it's been seen correct time and time again after we find more and more and more evidence. Okay, so like on the hierarchy of thought process, okay, we have a guess, red. We have a hypothesis. Okay, the last 52 cards were red. My hypothesis is, it's going to be red again, because this. We then have a law. That's just something that happens. It's a phenomenon. It's a natural occurrence, a principle of science. Technically, the hierarchy would then be theory. This is something that's been shown time and time again to be correct. The hypothesis is really ugly.
I thought theories were like things that like you could never really prove right. Like the Big Bang Theory.
So Big Bang Theory, again, it would be something that we've looked into several times, and every time we've looked into it, it's been correct for the most part. But it hasn't been, it isn't to the point of proof. Proof means beyond reasonable doubt that this is the way it is.
So wouldn't law be over theory?
No.
A law is a definite concrete thing.
The reason why I put theory over law is because law is a concrete, definite thing, but it hasn't been I don't say it hasn't been researched as much, but because theory has been researched and constantly tried to be misproven, then I hold it to a higher esteem, and most time in science we kind of hold it to a higher esteem.
Well, like Newton's laws were like theories first and then laws because they were
Proven to be time and time again, right? And kind of as I was like saying this, I kind of wanted to say, well, these also could be interchangeable, and I think that's a valid idea. Just like observation and question on the scientific process. You know, do you make an observation and then you ask a question, or do you ask a question and then make observation and make a hypothesis? You can switch those two, right? And it's okay to do that. And again, it's a process, and really the scientific process or scientific method is actually kind of mostly incorrect because they don't really do that anymore. But it is a good way to kind of process ideas. So yeah, I can see. Where's you going, Mason? So again, here's that idea. Theory is supported by many scientists from many fields and many cultural backgrounds. So when we look at evolution, we look at the change in the genetic population, the population, the genetics of the population over a certain amount of time. And these were the 5 times. First idea is fossil records. Okay, primarily this idea of transitional fossils. There's this really cool little video that came out by SciShow, which says the title is "When Will We Ever Stop Discovering Dinosaurs?" And essentially, right now we're in the golden age of dinosaurs because our technology is getting so big. We used to find what he was saying was basically one dinosaur fossil every 2 to 3 years. Now we're finding 20 to 30, like every couple months. So the technology, the techniques of it is increasing greatly. We will eventually run out because they based it on how many genuses they found. Because they assume there's only one species per genus. But you find things like this, because technically this is not a dinosaur. Okay? The dinosaur would be a lizard type base. This is a transitional fossil because we can start to see the transition of a bird, right? We've got things like wings. We've got these expanded bone structures right here, right? There's a tail with the tail with the vertebrae, but it still has a lot of those reptilian features. Okay, the teeth, those kind of things. So things like an Archaeopteryx is a way we can say, okay, well, these are the fossils we see here, and these are the fossils we see here, and these are the modern day fossils, or the modern day bones. And you look at these fossils, and you can see the transitions from one type to the next type to the next type. So this would be one of those evidences of evolution. The other day is this one, and this actually was one of the things that Darwin was looking at. We'll look at embryos here in just a second. But we find fossils of whale-type creatures that had hip bones, that had hip legs. Okay? Whale-type creatures that were ancient, prehistoric, that had legs, but yet they still swam. Okay, they were aquatic environment creatures. So, again, this is that fossil record. These fossil records allow for things. Here's the horse. So the modern day horse is right here. Here is basically, if you follow it, these are if you look at the fossils, and this picture doesn't really do a very good job of something kind of drawing it. This right here, the bone structure of this horse in quotations, was something like that. The toes actually went down, like that. Okay? If you follow along, this one actually split off, that one split off. Eventually what happens is that the bone structure here is you've got a bone here and you've got one toe here. Okay, here we had a bone here. Okay, so these would be like the finger bones. Essentially the horse would walk on 4 fingers, or the prehistoric horse. And this is a very tiny horse. Yeah. Okay, and as you go through, these 2 bones on the side, so like this horse right here, or this prehistoric ancestor horse, their bones look something like this. To where those 4 were starting to pull up and get smaller. Okay, and then the bone structure here, yeah, kind of.
Like, are elephants eventually going to have hoofs? Is that what you're telling us, Mr. Reed?
No. I'm just saying, what I'm saying is not that all things will develop this process. What I'm saying is that if you look at the fossils of each of these horse-type creatures, okay, as you look at, you see the transitions from this 4-toed creature to this 1-toed creature. Because eventually, this toe right here goes away, these toes start to get smaller, and ends up these two right here actually merge together as 1 toe. And so that horse hoof, right, is one solid hoof. It's not like a cow hoof. A cow hoof is actually split. I don't know if y'all know that, but like cow hooves and sheep hooves and those kind of things, those are split. Horse hooves are a single hoof because it's a single bone, right? Whereas cow hooves is actually 2 bones. And so the development is again, that would be a fossil record.
So the horse behind...
So this is what's called biogeographical evidence. Okay, bio meaning life, geographical meaning different location on the earth, right? So different living species on different locations on the earth. When I was a kid, and this is what's really weird, okay? When I was a kid, and I always found this very, very strange. When I was a kid, and I still do. I've never made it out there yet, but I really want to go to Australia, okay? Because the diversity and the uniqueness of both the flora and fauna, both the animals and the plant life out there, is not found anywhere else. Okay, the large amount of marsupials in Australia was weird to me, and I always kind of wondered. This is like thought process. When I started looking at evolution in college, I was like, I remember that. I remember looking back and thinking, why are there so many marsupials in America? Or sorry, in Australia. There's only a few. There's only like the opossum here, and there's only a few in South America. Okay, and so I started thinking about things like that. Do it, opossum. So So that distribution helps out. And this is the idea. So the abundance of different finch species. And so what his thought process was this. So this is going to be a really bad drawing. Ready? Here we go. Bad drawing. So here is Mexico, right? And here is South America, little Central America, Mexico, whatever. Okay? South America. Fantastic. All right. There's the Galapagos Islands. Got it? Does that make sense? Okay.
What's the big thing?
That's Central America. South America. So what he sailed from was he actually sailed from England all the way up here, down around the Cape, all the way over there, and over here. Now, the cool thing was this, and you'll see this when y'all watch the video later on. He actually landed here in South America, in Peru, which is kind of here-ish in this bad drawing area. Okay, I think. And he found these ancient skulls, these fossils of these mammoth, sorry, I can't forget it. These mammoth, okay, sloth skulls. Sloth, like, I'm hanging around, I'm a sloth, right? Like sloth skulls, but they're mammoth, all right? So we're like walking on gigantic, like the size of hippos, not that big, but pretty close, okay? Large sloths. And he's like, and he also finds some other fossils and some other skeletons of formerly existing armadillos and sloths and all these different mammals. And he starts wondering, why do we see these here? And these armadillos, we'll also see them in England, we'll see them in North America, we'll see them in all these different places. Like, why are they the same? And he started to kind of developing these kind of really weird ideas. So one of the things was that he said that these finches, okay, so he found these finches over here in South America. The idea was that these finches were here and possibly either blown off course, because remember, finches are migratory. So they could have been going from South America to North America or Central America, and in the process of them migrating, they could have been blown off course. It happens. Okay? Or they could have been flying or being swept out to sea and got stuck on kind of a floating area and made their way over. Really weird ideas, okay? But it still works nonetheless. So these same finches that were here, I'm going to draw there. Okay, same finches are here and the same finches that are up in England, way up there, okay, are also found down here in the Galapagos Islands. And each of these islands, based on what plant life is there and what kind of other food sources were there, have changed. Okay. Now, another idea is this. Do you remember anyone taking geography or geology in here? Yeah, Price? Yeah? No? Yeah? Okay. All right. So you had this massive thing, and in that massive thing you had these little plates. And there's a plate right there, and there's a plate right here, and there's a plate, very weird looking plate that looked like that.
You're a really good
Wait,
drawer.
what's this again?
Okay, don't worry,
What is this?
I'm awesome. This is the world prehistorically. Okay, it's Pangaea. Yeah, it's because just you got to squint your eyes a little bit. Okay, so.
Squint your eyes to make it a circle.
Earth. There's this large conglomerate of mass, okay, of land. And the land had these little cracks in it. And those cracks eventually that was Pangaea, right?
Yeah.
Okay? Now, get off my Pangaea, all right?
That's even worse than the first.
Ouch.
I don't want it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everybody likes to jump. All right, anyways, here's what this biogeographical is saying, okay? So not only could these birds be blown off course, but the question about all the marsupials down here in Australia, that's Australia, okay? Hush them out. So all these marsupials are down in Australia. And you also notice that they're only on that side of Pangaea. If you look at the species, and this is what Alfred Russel Wallace looked at too. He looked at, and he was another evolutionary biologist when this was all being developed, and him and Darwin worked very closely together. They noticed that there was a dividing line between and he looked at butterflies, between the butterfly species, and so the idea is that these animals were able to go back and forth, these creatures. Not that time was marsupials, or if they were, okay, they were able to go back and forth on this Pangaea type area. There was these natural land bridges, things like that. But when the Earth started splitting apart, think Ice Age, okay? Don't think Ice Age, but same idea. When the Earth started spreading apart, these animal species were on a centrally located area. They weren't all over this, right? Because if they were all over this, we would be able to find marsupials in all continents. They were primarily in this area right here. Okay, this is what's called the biogeographical, because of the original split of the land masses.
So is the mountains simply
That could be another reason why. Yeah, so it could be this. It could also be oceans, mountain masses. It's what we call geographical.
And then when they start splitting, they could go to other places.
Yep.
Geographical isolation.
Geographical isolation. Okay. So this would be that geographical isolation. This is where, yeah, there could be a mountain range in the middle. And that mountain range could have erupted because as the plates move, mountains create. That's what the Rocky Mountains are. There's a collision of plates. Maybe a river was formed. Maybe there are islands between it. Those kind of things. Okay. Yeah. So the thing is, not only do we have things like geographical isolation, you could also have reproductive isolation. There's the bird of paradise is this bird that lives in paradise, and yeah, almost not different though. They're like small birds. All right, so the bird of paradise lives in the tropical Amazonal rainforest area. Okay, that same kind of tropics, and they have a very specific dance. You've probably seen this on, like, if you ever watch like Planet. What's it called? Earth. Thank you. No, the name of the movie. I'm trying to remember. But anyways, but they show this bird, like he's like hopping around, dancing around, right? And they have this very specific dance to it, to a breeding dance. And if you get a specific species that goes away for too long of a time because of a geographic isolation, or because it's been pulled away, or because it's found a new niche and it's found itself a new niche, it could actually also lose its reproductive success. And that's what we call reproductive isolation. So, and what happens is the bird of paradise is dancing for this other bird, and the other bird is a different species, and so it doesn't understand that dance. And it's like, you've got no game. Yes. Same, just like happy feet. All right, next one. Anatomical evidence. Okay, organisms have anatomical similarities. There's two different types you need to know: homologous and analogous. Let me make sure I get this really clear with y'all. Ready? All right. So homologous is same structure, different use. Where is it? Ready? So homologous, same structure, different use. And these pictures up here, these are all homologous structures. Sorry, the bottom. These are all homologous. And these are known as analogous structures. And analogous is same use, different structure. Now always just use those forwards. So homologous is same structure, different use. Analogous is same use, different structure. Okay? Like these guys right here. So a whale, a cat, a horse, and a human. These, and especially if you look at the phalanges. So a whale uses its phalanges to what? Swim. A cat uses its phalanges to what? to run or walk. Yeah, and actually, y'all notice that cats look where the cats walk on. They walk on their tips. They're actually designed to run, not to walk. Because if you look at the kinetic, if you look at the potential energy here, the elastic potential energy, it's much higher if you run on your toes than if you run on your flats. As usually our sprinters will run on their toes, they don't run on their flats. Whereas marathon runners will run on their flats. True story. Horses, again, it's the same phalange, but something different. It's the same structure, with different use. Same thing as humans. Our phalanges, we use them for gripping. Okay. And also, you notice that humans, now this is of course an arm, but on a human foot, we walk on our flats because we're designed for walking. Right?
Wouldn't
Now-
the cat and the horse be?
They're both runners, yeah.
So
They're like the same structure.
Same structure, they're pretty much the same
like
use.
same structure.
They're pretty much the same use as well.
Okay.
But do you notice that this phalange is actually developed all the way up here? Because this is the carpus right here, the metacarpals, which is your wrist bone, the green. Notice where they are right here. They're up further, right? And so this is what I was trying to show you on that really bad drawing of the fossils. You'll see right here, this is one modified toe. This entire thing is one toe. Okay? Except for that little part right there, which is the dew claw.
That's a pin.
Yeah, it's a bending point, but that's actually a residual of the phalange. If you follow the fossils, that one middle toe will get bigger and bigger, and those other toes will get smaller and smaller, and those will then go up to the dew claws. Okay. Same thing on a cat. Their thumb is their dew claw. Okay, the little part on the end, like when you your dogs are standing like this, there's that little thing in the back. It's the dew claw. That's their thumb. Not really. The dew claw in cats is used to capture prey. They can actually swipe and they catch with that because it's actually a really sharp claw. And so they'll use that to capture prey. But on dogs, I don't think they really have them.
So the whale and the horse, they're both swimming and be analogous because they're like using the same thing with their.
Horses don't normally swim. The whale swims. The cat runs. A horse runs, but the metacarpals are moved up, and the human hand grasps. Because these are all forelimbs. What was your question? Sorry.
I was just saying like.
Whereas analogous, all right. So both a bird and a bat fly. Yes. Okay. A bat. Here's your humerus. Here's your radius and ulna. Here's their phalanges. All right. Here's your humerus. Here's your ulnar radius. Here's their phalanges. Notice where the bat has basically different structures, right? Because notice that these phalanges are used to support the wing, but they still allow the bat to fly, whereas these are merely just used as appendages on the outside. They don't necessarily support the wing. The feathers are attached to the muscle, the skin and all that is attached to that bone, but it's not down here. Okay? So these would be analogous. So different structure, same use.
Why does the horse have the same structure? Because I know the little phalanges are, you said they moved up or something.
Mm-hmm. They're metacarpals.
But I don't like that.
That sucks.
It just,
Sucks to you.
I know why the whale, because it kind of looks like his fingers. Cat kind of looks like his fingers. Human kind of looks like his fingers.
Definitely have fingers.
Horse is just
It does have fingers.
one,
I think that our
big
bigger
thing.
There definitely is a modification here, but think about where this is. Okay. So yeah, it's no longer the phalanges, but if you look at the bone structure itself, those phalanges are still there. They've just become modified. And I will tell you, on any questions I've ever seen, that the horses actually probably would ever be used. It would be something like, which of the following is homologous structures? It'll say like a whale and a cat arm, or a bird and a bat wing. And so you have to know that, well, the cat and the whale both have the same kind of bone structure.
What they do?
Right?
Like, it's gonna be obvious.
Right.
It's not gonna be like, well, the horse.
All right, so here's some other examples of analogous structures. So the dolphin, okay? Same use. The dolphin has a dorsal fin. The shark has a dorsal fin. They both have fins, right? Different structures. Okay, the shark is cartilaginous. There is no bone there, whereas the dolphin is bone based. Okay, it's different structures within itself. And so it's the same thing here. This is talking about these all have canine teeth. And do what? What it's saying is that they all have canine teeth. So like these front pointy teeth, right? So we have them as well. But what it's saying is that you wouldn't put a kangaroo with this one because kangaroos don't have placentas. They're marsupials, whereas we do. They don't have placentas. Yeah, placentas. That's developed within the embryo itself, in fetus. Yeah, babies. Yeah. So even though both this one right here and these were both ancient, these are both what are known as saber-toothed tigers. This one would be a placental saber-tooth, and this one was a marsupial saber-tooth.
What?
So they both have the same structure, but this was a marsupial saber-tooth, and this was a placental saber-tooth.
What does a marsupial saber-tooth look like?
The same as a placental. It's actually a little larger. Huh? Okay.
So they look the same, but they're.
Oh, so that's why marsupial is marsupials because they're not placental?
Yes.
Did we talk about that?
You know, you can like take your placenta home and like cook it.
So a lot of people, and I like to look at residuals for this one. A lot of people think, okay, well, evolution is dead. Nothing's evolving. Nothing is continuing on. Okay, and the easiest thing to see in evolution actually is bacteria, because bacteria, like these superbugs, all right, they're developing, they're changing their gene pool. They're changing what they are over time. Viruses, HIV. Why is HIV still spreading? Why is measles still spreading? Because the virus itself has changed its genetics over time. That's evolution. But on the macroevolution side, things like elephants. Okay, elephants are being poached for their tusks. So those elephants are now starting to be born without tusks. We told y'all this one? Yeah? Because if they're born without tusks, then they survive and they pass on their genes. And so what's happening is the gene population is changing towards those without tusks. That is a recessive trait. But because it becomes a beneficial recessive trait, it becomes seen more often.
So it's like a mutation that they're born without tusk and then.
Well, it's not necessarily a mutation. It's just you either are born. It's kind of like cattle, like the polled and the non-polled. The horned or polled. Like some cattle are born without horns, and some are. Do it.
How are they just born without tusks?
It's the same. It's the same thing because all it is they just don't develop the same like large tusks. Another one in Montana. Yes, in Montana. I want to say they have been tracking. They've been tracking the wings of cliff swallows and the size of the cliff swallows because they've noticed that the cliff swallows themselves, they build these big bridges, okay, for the cattle to actually overpass and for cars to go over and that kind of stuff. No, humans. Sorry. We've built these bridges over these passages, over these highways. And the cliff swallows enjoy these bridges because they can basically build their nest in these bridges, underneath these bridges. They've been tracking the cliff swallow wingspan and the shape of those wingspans for, I think it was like 40 or 50 years. Right? And the wings themselves have gone from a very wide wingspan to a very short wingspan. And from a C-130, a cargo plane, to a F-16 fighter jet. Okay? And what they've noticed is the ones that are dead on the ground that have been hit by cars are the C-130. The ones that are living are the F-16s. Okay? Because you think about it. You're living under the bridge. There's cars driving by at 90 miles an hour. Because in Montana, no one stops you. You, being the fighter jet, are going to be able to move way out of the way and go and make more babies than you, that is a C-130. There's a large car coming, you're not going to move. Alright? And you're going to be on the ground. Vestigial structures, same idea here. Whales actually do have hip bones. Why do you need a hip bone? I don't know. It's there. They don't walk.
Those hips do lie.
If they
Do it.
didn't have a hip bone, would they like be able to function still?
Yes. Yeah. It's just, and remember, the only reason why you have hip bones is so you have you have leg bones. They don't have leg bones. Snakes have hips as well.
Really?
What? Yeah. Weird things going on. Hips do lie. What? Well, here's what was the thought process. Y'all remember this animal right here?
Wait, so does that mean snakes are losing their hips or gaining hips?
I don't know. I think losing. Here's the thought process. Remember this guy right here? Remember this guy? Okay. The thought process was that essentially here's the timeline. Okay. So fish started being able to learn, started to basically leave the water. They became amphibians. Amphibians were then able to leave further away from the water when they started developing scales and hard shells around their eggs. Okay. And then that then developed towards mammals. This guy essentially diverged. He went from land back to the water. And the thought process is this was the ancient ancestor of whales. As he found less competition in the water, because everyone's moving towards the land, he said, wait, there's more food out here. There's less competition. I'll be able to survive longer. If I could swim faster, if I lost these back annoying little legs and just use my tail and have a large tail, then I can swim faster, I can get more food. So then I can spread my progeny even further. Then it was a divergent evolution. Okay? So, hence the idea of whales having hip bones. Whales also have teeth when they're born. When they're not born, but when they're developing an embryo. If you look at the embryo of a developing whale, even baleen whales, like the blue whale, they have teeth. Like we have teeth in our heads when we're developing. Okay?
Wait, like real teeth or like teeth like they have? Like they have
Like real teeth, like molars and bicuspids and stuff.
So what happens?
They just don't develop.
Like they eat, so
They develop baleen instead of teeth.
oh yeah.
Another cool little thing, the salamander. This is the adult Ozark blind cave salamander. Yes, he is blind. His eyes are getting smaller and smaller and smaller because he doesn't need them. Crickets, spiders, other fish that live in caves, a lot of them don't even have color. They don't need color. Yeah, they're white.
Did you say the, what did you say?
They don't have color,
Oh, yeah, they're like,
right? And they're blind.
that's why they died. So it's
Kind of like
Yeah. Okay. The cormorant, the Galapagos cormorant, is a winged bird, but it cannot fly. Okay. There's quite a few. So it's just where vestigial structures. So Mason also brought up the idea of your appendix. You don't need your appendix. That's why if you get appendicitis, it breaks. You let it go. Hey, so you go in for an emergency appendicitis removal. Not a big deal. It goes away. You're good. Here's a little the idea behind that. Okay, cattle have rumen. Oh, you ag people out there, right? Cows have rumen. Those rumens allow them to break down roughage, hay, and cellulose. Okay. Horses eat hay and cellulose. Horses don't hold on to hay and cellulose nearly as well as cattle do. That's the reason why you always have to worry about a horse getting bloat, which is essentially they fill with gas. Because a horse has a cecum, not a rumen. Do it? It's basically really, really bad gas that doesn't go away. Okay? So cattle have rumens. If you follow on development, horses have cecums, same location, same idea. The cecum still breaks down roughage, but not nearly as well as the rumen does. The cecum is at the very end of the large intestine. right on the side. It's like right along the large intestine. The appendix is the same location as the cecum of a horse. So the thought process is it's a vestigial structure, things we don't need. And the reason why you get appendicitis a lot of times is because as the byproduct of the food is going through your large intestine, it gets stuck in your appendix. That then causes inflammation, that then causes swelling and pain, and that's when it ruptures.
What gets stuck in your appendix?
Processed food. Like, 'cause it's on its way out, and then it gets stuck up there. It's almost like an empty cavity. You know, there's like spots in your room where you're like, oh, that's why I put that. It's kind of like your appendix. It just goes fast and it's fine. Do what? Their toes? Tonsils, yes. All right, next one, embryonic development. Ready? Ready? Here's the part that always blows me away. Okay, I always like taking this picture and like covering this up over here. Okay. Look. What do you see? They're very, very similar, right? Okay. They all look like shrimp. Fish. All right, ready? So, fish, amphibian, reptile, avian, and human. Primate.
Did you say alien?
Avian. Alien, yeah. Alien development. Okay.
Top one's a fish.
Oh, okay.
Fish.
I thought it was.
Salamander.
I'm stupid. I thought it was.
Left to right.
You go from
So we all have the same.
I saw like the chick, and then I saw the baby.
Couple things you need to notice. First off,
I'm so embarrassed.
if I can spell that right. Pharyngeal gill slits. When you are a developing embryo, there are pharyngeal gill slits. Those will eventually become gills in a fish. Those eventually become gills in a salamander or an amphibian. Those will eventually go away and everything else.
So like we have them, but they go away.
Unless you are the guy from Waterworld.
What does that say that you just wrote?
Next one is notochord. So we have notochords. A notochord is just a new, unfully developed spinal cord. So do you notice that, so the pharyngeal gill slits, okay, on the embryonic development. Pharyngeal gill slits, we do have the notochord. Then also, we'll have some form of tail. Okay? We'll have some form of tail.
So this is all embryos across.
All embryos across the board, they will all develop this way.
So
As long as they're, I want to say as long as they are vertebrates. Now, if it's a non-vertebrate, they don't always follow this, but yeah, we have a tail. That's our tailbone.
you know, have you seen like the pictures of like the people with tails?
Yeah.
Like humans? What's that?
Which one's a human?
Bottom right.
The bottom right? This one? Human? What's that?
That's a fish.
Salamander.
The salamander? What's that?
That's a scorpion. That's not close.
What's that?
It's a little sensor thing.
That's a worm.
That's a turd.
The worm? What's that?
That's a daisy.
That's a baby? You ready? So we're thinking only that one's a human? Or that one?
That bottom.
Bottom right?
I think it's top.
Top left?
I don't know. They all look the same to me.
They're actually all humans except for one, which is the pig. That's a pig. It's a pig. Yeah. It's also different. It's also different, like scans. Like that's actually like a picture. That's an electromagnetic, or a scan electron microscope. These two are actual. Yeah. But you can see though. Look at this. It's kind of cool. You can see things like the developing backbone, right? you can see the gill pouches. Okay. There's the tail. There's that notochord. The notochord is that dark area there. Okay. There you go. A little fun for you. One more. Biochemical evidence. Okay. If you take, when y'all went to the Perot, if you got to go to the Perot, did y'all see that gigantic table with the tree of life? No? Yes? No? It was like this big. And it has a little microscope on it, and you look around, not a microscope, but a little viewing glass, and you move the viewing glass around, and it has all the species. This is at the Perot.
Yeah, did you like the Perot? I was kind of disappointed. A lot of it wasn't the real stuff. I want to see the real stuff.
But anyways, this whole tree of life, basically what it is if you take something like this. Listen. You take something like this. This is what's called a cladogram. And a cladogram is essentially a tree that shows evolutionary relationship based on one or two different properties. Okay, we'll look at cladostics or cladograms later on when actually the Monday I get back. But what it is essentially a gigantic cladogram for every single species. For the most part, not everything, but a good chunk of the species. And what you do is you follow these. And this is actually a bar graph. But basically what you do is you follow these lines, and as they break off, it's a change. And it's this gigantic circle. And if you don't really look into it, you see a circle like this, and you start seeing the little lines, and they're coming off. And you see some more lines, and they're coming off. You see some more lines, and they're coming off. But it all starts right here. And there's a line there, and there's a line here. And one line goes this way, another line goes that way. That's what's over there.
Is that the one that had like? Yeah, it's like that, and it was by the like thing where the people were trying to make the ping pong ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it's this big table, and I actually have the PDF version of this one. It's kind of cool. It's like, if you print it out, it's like 11 by 11. It's like, yeah, it's really tiny, but I can actually blow it up and I can print it off like a 5 by 5 sheet. It's pretty cool. But essentially, you have two kingdoms here. The archaea bacteria and the eubacteria. We follow that tree. Most organisms follow this tree. From the archaea bacteria, which we think, oh, archaea bacteria, those are those ancient ones. Those are those ones that lived like a long time ago, and they can deal with high salt concentration, and they can deal with very, very hot conditions or very, very cold conditions. Well, you follow the DNA and the changes of the DNA, there are fewer changes on archaea than on eubacteria. So, if you ever get a chance, take a look at it, and if I think about it, I'll show you a picture. But what this is looking at, this is actually cytochrome C, and cytochrome C is one of the proteins that you need within your mitochondria to follow electron transport chain. And what was electron transport chain for? It is part of metabolism. What's its ultimate goal? To create what? It uses oxygen to create ATP. Okay. Your electron transport chain was the section. You do glycolysis. Glycolysis takes glucose, splits into pyruvate. Pyruvate and oxygen have to join together to come into the mitochondria. Mitochondria then goes into the Krebs cycle. The Krebs cycle produces lots of NADH, FADH2, and carbon dioxide. We breathe out the carbon dioxide. The NADH and the FADH2 carries lots of electrons to the electron chain. One of the things that carries those is cytochrome C. It plays a very important role in electron transport chain. If you didn't have this, you couldn't make ATP. If you can't make ATP, you can't survive. But what this is showing is that if we track the differences in their cytochrome Cs, remember cytochrome C is just a protein, which is a sequence of amino acids. And we look at the amino acids between us and the monkey. So that's a rhesus monkey. That whole rhesus factor, that's where it comes from. So if we take a difference between humans and the rhesus monkey, there's, about 3 to 4 amino acid difference. If we look at the difference between humans to pigs, there's about a 15 amino acid difference. There's only about 17 amino acid difference in ducks. We're right about 20, 19 at turtles. Fish is only about 25. So think about the difference between us and fish. Right? There's a lot of differences. But the amino acid sequence of the protein that carries these electrons, or is part of that electron transport chain, is only 17 amino acids difference. Even all the way down to yeast, single-celled, fungi, they just hang out in a glass jar out of the fridge until you need to use it to make your bread. It's about 50 amino acids difference. It's not much. Think about it. Okay, ready? I'm going to give you a hint. Okay, cytochrome C is used a part of the electron transport chain within the mitochondria. Why would bacteria not have cytochrome C? They have mitochondria. Remember the prokaryotes. Okay? Remember, there's between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Pro means no. Okay? Does not have membrane-bound organelles. Does not have a nucleus. Does not have mitochondria, chloroplast, whatever it is. It has cytoplasm, ribosomes, cell wall, maybe cell membrane.
So you could trace it back to mitochondria?
Yeah. 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 Because remember, mitochondria have their own DNA. Chloroplasts have their own DNA, and originally the thought process is, yeah, they were the only thing, because what's called endosymbiotic theory, that mitochondria actually have to double their DNA at the same time that your nucleus has to double its DNA. So it's going to go through the same process of mitosis, but just the mitochondria itself. Yeah, but remember, and also remember that mitochondria are only transferred by the female, at least in humans. And so, because remember, the female egg is what carries most of the mass, so it carries all the mitochondria. The male sperm only has the DNA and the protein to get it there. So all the mitochondria, you can trace your lineage on your mother's side as far back as you wanted to based on your mitochondria. Okay? So things like your DNA, we can actually even look at the differences in DNA. We can look at the difference in amino acids. And that will also is another kind of evidence for evolution. Okay?